Right. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining today. I'm thrilled to see so many of you joining us for this awesome webinar. I'm especially excited about this webinar as this is the week of World Backup Day. So a very, very timely topic. I'm honored to be partnering with OpenText today. And collectively, we're going to be hearing about how OpenText revolutionized their backup strategy while improving their cyber resilience. So we're going to be learning about some of their challenges. And when you reach the level of success, like a global organization like OpenText, it's not just the sheer volume of data that you have to manage and secure and protect that becomes ever so challenging, but it's even more so when you factor in the evolving sophistication and prevalence of cyber threats out there. So from ransomware attacks to data breaches and kind of everything between those, we all see the same stories week after week of businesses falling victim, paying out millions in ransom, suffering from reputational damages. Needless to say, it's becoming harder and harder for our businesses to kind of stay ahead of these malicious actors who are going for the jugular of our businesses, our data. So, and long gone are the days where our organizations are myopically focused on just that, on backup and recovery SLAs, because there's now regulatory, compliance requirements that talk about how data has to be not just stored, but also accessed and managed, and how long it has to be kept for, and if it's sensitive data, has to be treated certain ways. So needless to say, trying to solve these sorts of challenges today with solutions of yesterday simply aren't cutting it. So we're going to be hearing from OpenText on how they went through a similar journey and how they were able to adopt the vast data platform to really simplify how they secure, manage, and protect data, how they're reducing costs and overall reducing risk for the overall business. So it's important, especially I talked about World Backup Day. That was on Sunday, by the way. So as we kind of commemorate World Backup Day, it's important for us to reiterate the importance of having a resilient data protection and recovery strategy amidst the realities of our data landscape today. So before we dive into the fireside chat format, I want to introduce our speakers. So I'm honored to be joined today by Najim Khan, Senior Manager of Cloud Services at OpenText, and I'm Michael Pacheco, Senior Product Manager with Vast Data. So Najim and I want to keep this as interactive as possible. So please, in the Q&A section of your Zoom webinar client, please submit questions along the way. As you think of them, if you hear something, if you want more info, we have subject matter experts that are here to answer your questions. So we encourage you. We want to hear from you. So, so without further ado, I guess, Najim, how are you, sir?
I'm doing good. Thank you, Michael. Thanks for having me.
Excellent. It's a pleasure. Before we hop into a conversation, I just want to take a moment to thank you and your team sincerely for being a loyal customer and for all the support and time that you've spent with us, in the previous weeks and especially today. So tell us about yourself. I'd love to learn about you, who you are, maybe a bit about your background. I'd love to hear about your environment, as much as you can share about applications you're protecting, data under management. Tell us a bit about your environment, and not that an introduction is needed, but maybe for the benefit of some folks on the call, tell us a bit about OpenText as an organization as well.
Yeah, so well, let me start a bit about myself. I've been at OpenText over 3 years. I look after their data protection services, which is responsible for managing backup and recovery for most of our assets. Um, Myself, I've worked in banks, technology companies for over the last 15, 20 years, I would say. I've worked at companies like EMC, TD Bank, mostly in the storage and data protection side. So if I want to talk about my technical background, I have about 15 years experience managing storages, whether it's for backup or front-end storage, cloud storage, before I moved into management. And I was responsible for storage and backup at TD Bank for about 6 years before I moved to OpenText. OpenText, as many of you are aware, is one of the leaders, I would say the leader in information management today. We have different applications, whether they were homegrown or sort of came to us through merger and acquisition. We have application that does information management, content management, ERPs, and recently after the acquisition of Micro Focus, we have a whole suite of software that came in from HPE, which is the HP Enterprise that used to exist a while ago. Again, in terms of my team, I have a team of about 20 people in there. They're dispersed all over the globe, all the way from Australia to USA. And we basically look after the infrastructure and the application that makes up the data protection suite, which could be backup applications, tape libraries, fast storages, other kind of storages. And yeah, so overall, we are the go-to point for any client out there. I'm talking about internal clients mostly. They are deploying a new server, and that server needs to be backed up. They'll come to us. They're getting new NFS mount from our enterprise storage team. At that NFS mount point has to be backed up. They would come to us. We have self-service options. We have options which are goes through our intake management tool. We try our best to take care of them, and obviously with the help from VAST, our life has been getting easier over the years.
Excellent. Thank you, Najim. So, I can appreciate what you and your team do. I come from an IT operations background myself. You talked about how VAST, is helping your team. You just alluded to that at the end of your answer there. So I'd love to hear you talk about what brought you to VAST. So given your focus on storage and data protection, obviously you had some challenges, right? You had some roadblocks. So I'd love to hear about some of those challenges and how those challenges influenced your pursuit of a better way to, safeguard your data to ensure that, business operations could continue amidst any, upcoming disruptions or cyber threats and things of that nature.
Yeah, so after I came in around in 2021, one of the big challenges we had was the growing operational cost of keeping tape libraries on the floor. Because as most of you are aware, most of the tape libraries were getting old and they needed a lot of caring and feeding, beside all the maintenance and all the rack space that they occupied on our data centers. And now, just like any other company, not all of our data centers are ours. We have co-locations that we rely on, so we have to work with the vendor in terms of keeping the hydro cost to a minimum, as well as the cost to keep those rack spaces. So we did think about few solutions. One of them was to ship all of our backup images off to the cloud. However, because OpenText is a company that obviously as a leader in information management, a lot of customers rely on us in keeping their data safeguarded. Sending them all to the cloud was not an option we could. So we obviously looked at a few other competitors of VAST, and obviously, through your excellent sales team, we got an introduction. We ended up doing a POC, a proof of concept, to see if this could meet our performance and our, more importantly, the scalability demands. If we could scale them out in a very short possible time, and how less complex the process is. To be honest, right out of the gate, VAST delivered great results in terms of writing speed, data reduction, and overall, I think what made more sense to us was the restore time compared to how fast it was from a tape library. Now, obviously, we have quite a few folks in my team who have a lot of experience in backup storage and all kinds of storages. So again, when you move from a tape library to any disk, whether it's an NVMe disk or a spinning disk, the restore time is going to be faster. So that was expected, but the results we saw compared to other products that we had on the floor were significantly better. So basically, it did not take us that long to go from proof of concept to deploying it in one of our lab environment, and from there to production. And now, over the course of, I would say, about 2.5 years, we have gone from one location to, I think we're about to deploy our 15th or 16th in the next week. And by the end of the year, we should be in at least more than 20 locations.
Well, excellent. So obviously you're a good steward of what you do of data and data infrastructure, and obviously you've put VAST data platform through its paces to make sure it was the right fit. with so many options out there, we know there are, like purpose-built backup appliances, cloud solutions, other storage vendors, without naming names, I'm curious to hear, like, what were some categories of options you considered? And as you were comparing apples to apples, or apples to oranges is probably a better way to put it, what was that light bulb moment? Like, what was that aha moment that you saw during your testing, during your validation, that made you realize, you know what, Vast Data Platform, this is obviously the right choice. This is the solution my team needs to best manage and secure data on a global scale. I mean, you talked about your, growth from a smaller footprint expanding to 15 sites and beyond. So, how did that realization that Vast Data Platform was the right choice? How did that influence your decision-making process?
Yeah, sure. I mean, again, I don't want to name other products out there because they all come from a good spot. I get it. I think the one of the because we had other storage arrays from a different vendor on the floor, and when we put the side by side with the Vast, I think one of them was how condensed the Vast deployment was. We could get, I don't know, 600 terabytes at that point in a 2U disk shelf, which we're not able to get with other vendors. Secondly, the data reduction, because I think I mentioned that beside the tape libraries, we actually had other storage arrays on the floor. And so we knew over the years how much of data reduction they provided us. So when we put them side by side with Vast, we were getting significantly higher. I mean, if I want to throw in some numbers, I was averaging 10 to 1, 11 to 1 for my most complex workload, which is database stuff, application and all that. And that was at least, I would say, two and a times higher than what we were getting before. Now again, all products go through a level of maturation or maturity, gonna call that, and maybe those vendors will come up with products that will compare with Vast or compete with Vast in terms of data reduction. But we had to take a call based on what we saw over the years versus what Vast were giving us. And obviously the results were in front of us, and we made a decision based on that.
That's awesome. I mean, I can't tell you, given my focus on data protection myself, I can't tell you how happy it makes me to hear about these success stories with this particular use case. From I hear from other customers, I hear from partners that as happy as they are with the data reduction benefits that their backup software provides with dedupe and compression, they're astounded when they see that when data lands on Vast Data Platform, how much more we can reduce that data with our similarity-based data reduction. It's a very unique differentiator for us. It's one we're very, very proud of. And I was going to ask you, like, the sort of tangible benefits that you might be seeing related to that, but you said you're seeing about 9 to 1, 10 to 1. Is that what you said? 10 to 1
Yep.
data reduction. That's really impressive. So I'm really happy that we were able to help your team, reduce your data center footprint and reduce your costs in orders of magnitude like that. So that's really, really cool. So OpenText, you're a service provider, right? Not only is your team protecting the data of lots of backend stuff for OpenText, but you're delivering services to customers and presumably protecting, customer data as well. So from a security or even compliance standpoint, how has the adoption of Vast Data Platform helped you deliver, helped you kind of make sure that your data is secure and compliant with things like data privacy regulations or any business related SLAs that you may have?
Yeah, so I mean, again, I'm not in the liberty of explaining how customer data flies over to our side and how we take care of that. But obviously, any internet application, because we're a service provider company, are housing or hosting some sort of a customer application, which means at the end of the day, I am handling customer data. And because OpenText is a global company, we are not only regulated by the U.S. The rules and regulation of the US federal government. We have Canadian government in there because we have a presence in the European Union. We're also governed by GDPR. I think encryption is a must for us. All of our disks have to be encrypted. VAST offered very good granular control, which I believe is natively built into the product. Between that, encryption, immutable snapshots, and obviously multi-factor authentication, that, not just having a user ID and login could allow someone into the VAST, have the 2FAs, and you have few other complex authentication protocols installed there. I believe we have a pretty good defensive model here in terms of protecting our customers' data and also protecting our storage environment in there. I don't know what else I can add. Obviously, you mentioned about backup application level deduplication. We have quite a few backup applications in our product suite that come from vendor. We also have our homegrown backup application data protector that we use beside other industry leading backup applications. They all have their built-in deduplication enabled, which were also in use when we're using tape libraries and using other backup storages out there. I think the migration was seamless. It did not bring in any sort of extra layer of work or configuration that we had to do when we're replacing either a tape library or I'm gonna throw a name in there, let's say NetApp, with VAST. And that's exactly what we wanted. We wanted a seamless transition or a migration from whatever we're using before to that, because as you can understand, with backup, there's a requirement for retention, which means the moment I start using VAST, doesn't mean I get to decom anything that I had before. I had to keep it for 6 months, 7 months, whatever the retention period was. So that time actually, that also allowed us to put the two storage or the two technologies side by side, because they're all being used by the backup application as of that date, to see how the performance weighs up. So it gave us a good view of how it should work, and also at the same time, we saw how condensed the data can be, how condensed or how simplified the installation process could be when we move to VAST. Yeah, I think it's all for now.
Excellent. So that data condensation and the benefits the VAST data platform provides there is paramount to growing very, very efficiently, at scale. And I've been following OpenText, as many have, and you guys have had an impressive run, an impressive growth spurt, and a trajectory. Over 100,000 customers globally. I know your install base, customer install base roster is comprised of lots of Fortune 500 customers. You've made some really smart and big acquisitions with Carbonite and Micro Focus. Some really impressive stuff. So I'm curious as to how the scalability of the VAST data platform, in conjunction with our VAST data Gemini consumption model, supports OpenText in its journey to expand its global footprint. In your opinion, or in your experience, probably put a better way, has our scalability in VAST data Gemini allowed OpenText to penetrate new regions, new markets, new service offerings to your customers? I'd love to hear you speak about that a bit, Najim.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly has. I mean, I could speak about how streamlined and simplified the VAST installation processes without getting into too much details about what sort of customers were. We have, like, I'll be honest with you, I have VAST in pretty much, I think, all major continents except Antarctica, of course, right? And we have smaller installation, which is your new series box that starts at 338 all the way to and my major commercial environments, which are having multi-petabytes of data. Not multi-petabytes of data, I have multi-petabytes of disk storage of VAST installed there. When we initially started, we obviously had to go through a learning process of how the system would look like. There are 3 components, how they're connected. But now I could tell you this, that if I have to get a VAST upliftment done to one of my sites, or I need to get a brand new VAST cluster installed in one of my new sites, I could get it done in few phone calls. because of the process we developed and because of the way the VAS system is installed, that most of the cabling, most of the internal configuration is done by the VAS CE as part of a co-pilot processing or process. So the work that our data center team has to do is very minimal. They have to get a couple network ports, we give them the information, and bang, we go. The VAS CE comes over and does the work. Also, if I look at, like, I think your most simplified VAS installation right now takes about at 4U or 5U rack space in a cabinet. And that gives someone, like, I don't know, half a petabyte of storage. You need another petabyte, half a petabyte of storage, just get another D box installed at the bottom, which takes about 2 new ports from the network team, and there we go. It can be done in, I would say, from the ordering process to getting it and to getting it installed. I think we have done it in a few weeks. But then again, a lot of that is spent in paperwork than actual work. So we do appreciate that because we are a service-based company. Whenever we sign new contracts and from the day we sign a contract to getting new workload into our systems, could happen in a few weeks. Unlike other companies where the curve of growth is very slow. We could go from 1 petabyte to 2.5 petabyte in an environment within 6 months. A lot of other companies do not do that. So the way we have to grow our storage has to be at the same speed or higher, because I cannot start getting workload and get my storage upliftment done after that. It has to be before. So I think in that case, because I've worked with many storage vendors, I've worked for storage companies myself, installation process are not very smooth. What I think in vast case made it pretty simple is your the modular deployment model that you have, that you don't have to touch all the components, you don't have to touch the C node or your NVMe switches. If you're upgrading storage, you get a new disk shelf and it's a very easy install. Getting the licenses, of course, whenever we get a disk storage, it comes with its own licenses, whatever we ordered. Increasing the number of licenses is, again, as I said, it's few phone calls and an email, and it gets done. The co-pilot process is what I want to plug here, even though I'm a customer, is what makes life really easy for us. Because even though pretty much all the product out there have some sort of a call home facilities, but what happens is a call home goes out, the vendor gets it, the vendor calls to the NOC team, opens an incident, and they start looking into it at some point. That does take away a lot of time. The
Right.
co-pilot process means, we're looking into it, we're working on it as you are. So sometimes we wouldn't even know there was an issue at night, and VAS got notified, they logged in, that had to be cleared out. They have the ability to do that. And next morning we find out exactly what happened. I mean, again, I understand there might be firewall rules at a lot of companies. We have some of those which might stop or which might, put a stop into that kind of a process. But what I'm trying to say here is the option is there. Some of my environments where the rules are not so rigorous in our lower non-production environment, we have run into issues overnight, which got fixed by our co-pilot, and we have designated co-pilot from VAS, 2 of them, to be honest, in different time zones, who have taken care of it. So that, to me, gives more time to my team to deal with other pieces of the infrastructure where we do not have such capabilities.
That's awesome. So clearly, I asked about how, our scalability and consumption model has helped you kind of, scale. So, you talked just about that. It's helping you scale deployments, simplify deployments. It's certainly helped with your data protection, accelerate recoveries. So clearly from a data protection standpoint, now that you've had time with vast data platform under your belt and under your team's belt, not that I want to get off topic, but have you given any thought as to other use cases or applications for vast data platform within OpenText beyond traditional data protection, beyond just protecting and recovering data? have you given any thought to additional use cases this may help you with?
Well, I have personally, because I'm part of the infrastructure group, and we have the enterprise and the cloud storage team under the same umbrella. So is some of our application teams. They are obviously aware of the fact that I am using VAST. I'm also using VAST to back up the workload they provide to the client.
Sure.
So if the enterprise storage team is creating NFS mounts, which is to be used for DB rack servers, Oracle or SQL, at the end of the day, those data are coming back to me for the backups. So they're obviously aware of that. I believe VAST team has reached out to some of those enterprise application or storage team to do some POCs for them. As far as I know, those are currently in progress, and obviously based on the result, they'll obviously make a call. They may or may not reach out to me for some feedback, and obviously, you know, as a colleague of theirs and as a somewhat loyal employee of OpenText, I'll give them my honest feedback. But as far as I understand, there are some proof of concept currently in progress to basically uh, evaluate other sort of workload within the company.
Cool. So I know you had a big, reliance upon tape for data protection. So obviously, in today's world of AI and analytics and big data, obviously, businesses want to do more and more with their data. So have you yet thought about the potential for being able to do just that, being able to do more with your data now that it's on an all flash, data platform, highly performant versus being locked up on tape? And those tapes are likely, separated by hundreds of miles of distance, air gap, right? You have to throw them on the truck, and so really not useful for analytics type, AI type workloads. Has OpenText or your team started to think about potential applications like that for vast data platform within your environment?
Yeah. So again, because I come from a backup and recovery mindset, and also, you know, from an organizational point of view, we have used VAST in terms of backing up any kind of sorry sorry for that any
Right.
kind of workload that we could put in there in terms of backup application workload, whether it's backup through you know, anything, let's say net backup, Veeam. We have multiple products that we use here, or you know, someone is using snapshots as backup, right? We have used VAST for all possibilities. Again, within my realm, as I mentioned, there are proof of concepts being done or being considered for housing other kind of workloads. It could be application data, could be storage data. Again, those will take their own course and own time, and obviously the people who are tasked with those teams will be making their decisions. But the news is out within the company that that there is a group out there who had, you know, over 25 tape libraries on the floor, each of them occupying, you know, 5, 6, 7 racks, you know, floor space in our data centers, have reduced most of them to nothing, to half a rack or maybe less than that, right? So that information is out there in the company, and I have people who reached out to me, you know, try to basically do the same thing we're doing here. You know, gauge my experience and, you know, my feedback on how the product works. And so far, I don't think anyone has heard anything to think otherwise. But then again, as I mentioned, they will be evaluating that with other products they have currently been using or been considering for a long time, and we'll go from there.
Excellent. Thank you, sir. So we're at the 30-minute mark, and I think it's a good time to maybe pivot to some Q&A questions. So I do see a few out there. Does that make sense? You want to take a few questions?
Sure.
All right. So, hey, we're on a live recorded call. This might be a dangerous one, but I'm going to ask anyway. What was your experience working with vast sales, support, and services teams?
Well, I'll say so. Obviously, we start just like any other company. We started with the sales team. I have been dealing with the same sales executive from day one till today. So it's not like they've sold it and then given it to someone else. You know, if yes, obviously it goes from pre-sales, sales, post-sales. There are multiple people who are introduced in the transaction, but the person that I spoke to was the first person at VAST that I spoke to. I'm still talking to them on a daily basis or whenever I need to. So the engagement is there. Obviously, there are more people added to the equation in the later stage as we, sort of mature the transaction and the relationship. I have absolutely nothing negative to say about sales. I'll talk about service. Again, the dedicated customer engineer who was assigned to our team, he has done deployment for us. The same person, not dedicating to someone else or delegating to someone else.
Love
Not that
that.
it's a bad thing. Sometimes you have to do it because you have to balance your work and life. But he has been installing VAST for us throughout the continental US. He has also installed it for us in Canada. I think the only place he couldn't go was to the Europe and to Australia and some of those other parts of the world. However, there is a dedicated team who does that. That he's also part of the team which does the co-piloting for our VAST environment. So anytime I have a question about any of my environment, I end up calling my customer engineer, and I have two other gentlemen who are part of that team there. And sometimes they know more about my environment than I do. So kudos to them. Support calls. To be honest, I do not open a lot of support calls because I'm being sort of, how do I say it? They've spoiled me up to a point that it's easier for me to just make a phone call to either Tom or Victor or Rakesh and get an answer from them. But then again, there are issues that we have faced, just like any other companies, which needed, someone from the engineering team, or we needed to upgrade to a newer version or install some hot fixes. For those, we did open a support call because I think that's the best way to track anything, because then you know what's been, it's an ongoing in progress sort of a development. So it has to be tracked under some sort of an intake process. But even for those calls, even we were working with the support team, your level 2 or level 3 tech support or maybe engineers, our co-pilot team of Tom, Victor, and Rakesh were still involved. So anytime they had a question, these guys were also answering them at the same time we're answering them. Just making it a very collaborative effort. So it's not like me talking to someone in the level 3 support at best, technical support team who has no idea about OpenText. No, there were people involved who knows a lot about OpenText and how VAST is used. So again, to be honest, anytime you work with a vendor, and VAST being a vendor here, there are ups and downs, but then you evaluate them based on how many ups versus how many downs. And in VAST case, I would say there have been more ups than downs. So that's how it is.
Wonderful. I do see two more questions at least in Q&A. The first is, have you yet had to expand backup capacity? What was that like? Also curious, how much faster are the restores now?
In terms of restores, if I compare them with tapes, again, it's it's not a fair comparison. It's an apples and oranges. Anytime you move from a tape or from an old magnetic tape drive to a spinning disk or flash drive, it's going to be faster. I think my restores have been at least 10 times faster compared to tapes. Compared to other disk storages, without naming them, I would say about 2 to 2.5 times faster. It's similar to, I know the numbers sound very similar to the data reduction we're getting, but that could be a coincidence, but that's what we saw. We do a lot of restores. Because of the way we do business, service-based businesses, there are a lot of source code being written and all that. There are a lot of restores that happen during the day, during backup hours, during non-backup hours. So making sure that those restores can be done in a reasonable time frame is a paramount importance. We have to consider that when we're considering VAST. In terms of uplifting capacity, I think I've said this before. Now that we have sort of engineered that to death and simplify the process, I think it's quite simple. If I think there is a ratio between C boxes and D boxes, and I think VAST recommends something about a 1:4. So when we do the first install, it comes with one C box, couple switches, one D box, which is the disk shelf, and then we could add, or anyone could add 3 more disk shelves without expanding their compute nodes, which is the C boxes. It's just 2 management ports, and it takes 2U space, doesn't take up a lot of power in the rack, doesn't take up a lot of space. again, it could be done in, as I mentioned, it could be done in quite a couple phone calls rather than, designing it again, finding out all the intercluster connections and all that. But then again, sometimes paperwork takes this time, right? Someone has to be paid whenever a new D-box is built, and someone has to approve them. I spend more time in getting those approvals, just like any other company, than spending time to install it. And that's how it should be. The technical part should take less. The paperwork should take longer. Not that this is the ideal situation to be, but again, in today's reality, in any company out there, that's how it's gonna be.
Thank you so much, Najim. And it looks like we have one more question, or I guess it's a comment. It says, I've been following Vast for a while. Love what y'all are doing for AI. I didn't realize you were such a good fit for data protection. So I guess I'll just say thank you for following us. I always love to hear from our supporters. But when it comes to, I guess, Vast Data Platform, and feel free to chime in too, Najim, if you have thoughts. In the realm of cyber resilience and data protection, I do firmly believe that we have, 3 or 4 distinct areas in which we, differentiate ourselves with respect to data protection. The first of which is all about securing data, right? So securing our customers' data. I mean, they entrust us to store exabytes of their data. We're very proud of that. So with that said, we offer all the enterprise, great features that you would expect from a platform like Vast Data Platform. So, from data immutability, support for S3 object lock, anomaly detection, highest levels of encryption, multi-factor authentication, role-based access control. So we have a whole slew of, zero trust security features that are geared towards making sure that your data is safe, that you're protected from cyber threats, and then you can also stay compliant. There is one other aspect I want to bring up, and I don't know if this is something you've yet played with, Najim, but our architecture lends itself very well to easily empower our customers to, air gap their data, isolate their data in a separate area from production, right? So they can run forensics, scans, scan for ransomware, and make sure that the data is not only recoverable quickly, but that it's recoverable in a very clean state to prevent the risk of reinfection. When you think about the magnitude and the prevalence of cyber threats in the realm of data protection, having these capabilities underneath the security umbrella, in particular the clean room, is paramount. Secondly is speed. I want to talk about how performance. So if you're going to remember one thing about Vast Data Platform, it's synonymous with high performance backups and even faster recovery speeds. So we have testimonials from customers who reach out and send us notes and talk about how they're achieving, unprecedented recovery speeds, near zero RTOs. You got to remember, we're not just a backup target. So when customers compare what we do to purpose-built backup appliances, I mean, we're, to your point, Najim, it's an apples and oranges comparison, right? So they're seeing 50 times faster recovery. That's a real number. That's not a made-up thing. These are customer testimonials. They're seeing upwards of 70% reduction in rack space. They're seeing 40% lower power consumption, 40% lower cooling. So, not only are we able to accelerate recoveries like nobody else can, but we're also able to help customers reduce costs and support sustainability efforts as well. The next kind of area in which I kind of want to brush upon is complexity, or I guess stated another way, simplicity. So over time, these workloads, data protection in particular, have the propensity to get complicated, right? With taking on new applications, data on-prem, and now data's at remote sites and on in the cloud and at the edge. So that is one angle. So from the get-go, from day one with our architecture, we have been very mindful of these little nuances. So we're focused on making sure that data protection is streamlined, data protection workflows are streamlined, and that they're cost efficient. So we have a platform, unified support for S3, NFS, SMB, I want to talk about data reduction. I want to talk about data reduction underneath the umbrella of simplicity as well. So on top of what our backup vendors, our backup partners can offer with data reduction, we can reduce that data by upwards of 60% or more with our similarity-based data reduction. It's of tremendous value for data protection workloads. I encourage you to explore if other solutions are able to do that. So we're proud of the fact of our differentiation there. Also, our Days architecture allows our customers to scale. If you want to scale backup performance to shrink your backup windows, you can do so by introducing more compute power. But if you need to just expand backup capacity to take on new users, new applications, new sites, merger and acquisition activity, you can do those things independently of each other. And then lastly, I want to talk about our partner ecosystem. So we're very proud of our partner ecosystem. We're partnered with the who's who of data protection, all the heavy hitters, Commvault, Veeam, Veritas, Rubrik, what have you. So we're partnered with the best in breed data protection partners to deliver the best in breed data protection experiences to our customers. So for those of you interested in this space in particular, please keep an eye out on vastdata.com because we have some upcoming announcements in this space that are very, very relevant to data protection and cyber resilience. So if you haven't yet considered Vast Data Platform for data protection, I encourage you to do so. I do want to share a slide up on the screen too. I think we're just about at the end of our time here, looking at the time. And Najim, obviously, if you have any closing comments, please do share. But before I go into this slide, I wanted to thank you, Najim, personally, as well as your team in OpenText organization for being a loyal customer. I'm thrilled to hear about the successes you've had and how we've been able to help, really streamline your global data protection operations. We appreciate you very much. And for those of you that attended, we also appreciate you very much. Thank you for the questions. It was great, hearing from you. I do have one small favor to ask. So at the end of this webinar, once we disconnect, you're going to see a pop-up on your screen. It's a very short survey. It's a handful of questions. We'd love to hear your feedback on how you felt like the session went. If you have outstanding questions, maybe things you didn't think about or something we didn't get to answer, get them, submit us your contact info. Somebody will be in touch as soon as possible. We'd love to learn more about you and about your data protection challenges. Lastly, please be on the lookout in your inboxes for a link to today's recording. Maybe you can send it to your colleagues who are not able to attend. Also be on the lookout for additional resources in the future related to this topic. So thanks everyone again. Thank you, Najim and team. And I hope you all have a wonderful day and excellent week. Take care.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.